This episode of The A Show is sponsored by Podcorn. Hey, what's going on? Have you guys been locked in a room recording 5 podcasts a day for 3 summers like we have?
Since the A Show has started, one of our goals has always been to collaborate with brands and obtain sponsorships in order to continue to grow. And we were met with that opportunity through the good folks at Podcorn. Podcorn is a marketplace connecting podcasters to amazing podcast sponsorship opportunities, such as host reads, interview segments, topical discussions, and more.
With Podcorn, there is no middleman. Podcasters of all sizes can browse and choose opportunities right on the platform, set their own rates, and collaborate with brands directly without any exclusivities.
We just made an account, signed up, and almost immediately we were connected with brands who wanted to provide sponsorship opportunities to us.
So thank you to Podcorn for sponsoring this episode, and make sure you start exploring sponsorship opportunities and monetizing your podcast by signing up at podcorn.com/podcasters.
Now let's start the show.
And just like that, they buy it. They eat it up. You pander to them, you thank them. I mean, really, people, I thought you were a little bit smarter than that. I mean, it's just so easy to say the name of the city. You cheer.
Hey, Stephanie,
You cheer. I mean, just come on.
Welcome to the A Show.
What's going on, everybody? And welcome back to the A Show with the Kings of Pro Wrestling Podcast. It is episode 125. 125 meals. What's going on?
Or in New York, you'd say 125th. So
125th? Oh, wait, y'all don't say 125th?
125th. We say 125th.
That's and they call us country?
Oh, wait, first of all, it's just New York slang, baby. Like, come on.
It's just New York slang.
125th, 145th. You know,
y'all some bumpkins on the low.
Listen, it's just New York. It's a different vibe. That's all I can say. It's just
my god.
125th. It's cool. It's much cooler at 125th. Who got time to say that? This is New York. 125th.
We are joined today by a special guest. It's the second week in a row we have a special guest. Roman, the dog, is here. Right next to me, now wanting to be playful as I start to record. So this will be a fun record.
Well, you know, he lights up when the red light comes on. So, I'm not surprised at all. I'm not surprised there's anything that's going on. First of all, what I want to say first for everything. If you're listening to this podcast and you're on 2 feet currently, wash your hands, please.
Oh, please.
Yes, please. Just wash your hands. And then maybe this rolls over into our first topic, but please wash your hands thoroughly. They've got all the little visual things now that everybody's memeing as of this morning. The whole like washing your hands to a song, and now everybody's changing what type of song it is.
Happy birthday.
Yeah, happy birthday. I've seen Thong Song. I've seen I think Cyrus posted one, which was like Young Thug's God, what did he post? I'm gonna pull it up for you because I'm pretty sure you could wash your hands to that.
Oh God.
Let's see. What did Cyrus say? Cyrus has Future Swag by Young Thug. So whatever makes your hands cleanly as possible, but make sure you wash your hands. Coronavirus is I wouldn't say it's definitely no joke from the aspect that I think a lot of people are losing money.
Yeah. Oh, at the end, I mean, like you said, leads into our first topic. Is WrestleMania at risk? Now, you know, as of this recording, it's been rumored that the biggest music event festival of the year, which is literally the week after Mania, Coachella. They're reportedly saying that they're going to postpone it until October, which is leading many people to kind of be concerned or worry that Mania might be due to the same fate. Now, just last week, WWE did come out and say that they were going to push on as planned. There have been a lot of rumors that they might cut down some of the fan-only events, like Access, maybe not do that at all, which, I mean, again, makes a lot of sense. That's a cesspool, and I, you know, as big as WrestleMania.
Okay,
But I'm saying, as big as WrestleMania may be of a cesspool, I think Access is like it's a smaller, a smaller venue. Like
Right. Well,
it'd
I'm
be
pretty
easier to do
sure.
that.
I'm pretty sure well, first of all, the thing I want to say in terms of WrestleMania at risk, WrestleMania will never be canceled.
No.
Vince McMahon would rather you not show up and decide that on your own accord than cancel WrestleMania outright. And
Yeah, because even literally just today, AEW said that they're not canceling any of their events for March and April, and that seems to be like the thing with wrestling, right? The show goes on, right?
yeah, it's all. I mean, that's always been the story, and I think it's really Vince McMahon sort of thing because I feel like if anybody else was involved and they decided to cancel things, it would have been canceled. But even with the NBA, right? Like the NBA is like, yo, if we have to play empty arena games, which would suck.
Well, LeBron said if there's no fans, I'm not playing.
I ain't playing,
Spo know that.
I mean, I play for the, I come out there, I see the fans, I play for these people, man. So if fans ain't there, I ain't playing. You know what I'm saying? And that's pretty much. I don't know if everybody has that sort of thing. I don't know if Undertaker comes out and his entrance has the same effect that no one in the arena. Because it just seems like all this pomp and circumstance. But there's no doubt in my mind that WrestleMania is not canceling its things. I don't think any of the indie shows are canceling their things.
Those are probably even bigger cesspools of just dirt and grime.
All right, so now I'm beginning to question what's your definition of cesspool.
I mean, people, those light tube matches, man, they're not safe.
Well,
you know what I'm saying?
I'm sure AEW will pass out their branded, face mask and everything like that because they seem to have that on lock. And I'm sure maybe WrestleMania will too. I feel like WrestleMania, I don't know if they'll take in a budget. I mean, if you take in a budget, if you start canceling access, you might as well take in a budget, a little couple face masks or some couple 100,000 face masks.
I just don't see, and again, like this isn't because I'm going, this isn't because I have any skin in the game. Because if they're canceling flights, then I can't go anyway. That's my biggest fear at this point is my flight going down, or them canceling it after I've made the rest of my travel accommodations. But I think that there's a lot of money riding on this. I think that it's possible for Coachella to move to October because the venue where they do it at, or not even the venue, but the space where they do it at, it's open generally there. My comment on that really is like doing Coachella in LA in October, it's going to be cold as hell. It's going to be very cold in the desert. And like no one's going to want to sleep outside. But
all right. So here's the thing about that though. And I'll say this to all my melonly challenged friends. White people don't care. Whether it's cold or not, listen, we feel cold differently than they feel cold. Coachella is not a, large event where I feel like I'm going to go, even though there are a lot of performers that I do want to see. But at the end of the day, white people don't care. I mean, It just is what it is, And I think in terms of WrestleMania and how that's going and all this other sporting events, we've seen a lot of various other things. All these shows are moving and shifting and all these other stuff. Places are being quarantined. People are being quarantined. Cases are, popping up in New York City like it's no one's business. It's like an average of like another 10 every damn day. Yeah. It's definitely a cause for concern. All we can say is pretty much that's why, I said at the beginning of the broadcast, everybody wash your hands. I mean, doing what you can.
Well, another issue with that is that the Raymond James Stadium, where they sold all these tickets to, they can't push this show to the fall because of college football, because of the NFL. Like they realistically have to do Vince is not going to let a WrestleMania
no, he would
lapse.
Rather no one show up at WrestleMania than cancel WrestleMania.
Exactly.
Listen, if we got the bottom bowl, we'll just, tarp off the top and make it happen. That's essentially what they're going to do. I mean, all the fireworks are still going to go off.
Yep.
All the smoke and mirrors and all this other stuff are still going to go off. WrestleMania, there's no way, unless Donald Trump himself, known sworn enemy of Vincent Kennedy McMahon, says something about it. I don't see anything happening.
No, not at all.
And also, if
So
you hear anything in the background of my thing, they're doing construction outside. Just want
well,
to leave
Roman is literally smelling the floor. So,
well, gotta smell something. You know what I'm saying?
but that we'll keep you guys updated as usual. Well, with the happenings, I feel like if WrestleMania does get canceled, we pretty much have to pull an emergency pod. I think that's just something that's big enough where we have to really just like report on that. So we'll keep you posted on that, of course, on the A show. Another thing I want to talk about before we talk about Elimination Chamber, I put this in our notes. I don't know if you got to read an article from the homie Caitlin.
Didn't get to
Catlin.
read it. Didn't get to read it. However, one thing that I noticed, apparently Medium charges people to read stuff now. News to me.
Yes, they got to get the bread.
Have not written on Medium in quite some time, but I only have 2 free stories left this month.
You want to save it?
Shout out to. Caleb is one of the 3 that I have for March apparently. So I'm going to read this, but give me the gist of what our friend Caleb Catlin is writing.
I mean, essentially, it is about the problem with wrestling fans, and that's literally the title of the article. And this is literally, moments after or hours after the Shayna Baszler thing on Sunday, where, and we'll talk about Elimination Chamber, but the biggest thing that comes out of that is not of the show or of any of the matches. It's that, wrestling fans just can't seem to get over the fact that Shayna Baszler was not booked 50-50 with a lot of the women in that match. And the issues with, really how modern wrestling booking is, where, we're kind of conditioned to think that 50-50 is normal, so that when, we do get a monster that's booked like Shayna was on Sunday, it's literally we go into panic mode, right? So this deals with that type of thing. And I wanted to shout that article out. I think I might put a link in the description to the article, because it is indicative of a lot of the issues with, I think, with like social media and fan responses. And it's like, the smallest voices now are the loudest voices, where these types of things, they don't really affect booking all that often, but it's almost like we don't really know, we don't know what we want anymore, because when they try and give a act 1 of what the Shayna story is, this is literally act 1.
Right.
And we're
legitimately the first thing that's happened.
Exactly. And now that we're writing off the whole story because she destroyed Liv Morgan in the match, and Liv isn't going to WrestleMania in the title match. It's just not going to happen. And I feel like this was the same issue with Bianca Belair last month. And whereas, like, feel how you will about Charlotte and about Rhea Ripley, the story that they're telling was in Act 1, and Bianca was a part of that act. And now we're in Act 2 with that story now. So, like, I love reading the article. I thought it was really great. And I think that it is an issue that going into WrestleMania, we're going to be seeing a lot of that. Like, we're going to come out of WrestleMania, we're going to be like, hey, a lot of people that we love aren't being booked the right way. And I think that, they use the word like the right way, the same way they use with Sasha Banks' title reigns. It's like, we want her to have a proper title reign. And it's like, what is a proper title reign in this generation?
Right. Well, I think just in general, in terms of the problem with wrestling fans, I think more of the problem is, and I think it's a situation that they don't even realize, that they're kind of conditioned in a certain way. And it comes from years of kind of like how pro wrestling has been laid out, especially during the Attitude Era and the 2000s and the Ruthless Aggression and all the other stuff. But I think wrestling fans don't quite actually know that they're actually conditioned in a certain way. So when something comes out that's out of left side, they react accordingly, and some of it's really, really good and some of it's really, really bad, but they're kind of conditioned to the fact that, oh, you have this star who knows how to wrestle, who knows how to talk. Oh, it is no way that they deserve to be beaten in the certain way that they've been beaten. But realistically, though, these are creating completely new stories, and we have someone at the helm, Paul Heyman, who's someone who's always, prided himself on, not really going the conventional route with a lot of things. And you can kind of see, we're going to talk about Monday Night Raw, we're going to talk about Elimination Chamber, we're going to talk about a whole bunch of other things, but he doesn't really pride himself on the conventional thing. And I think wrestling fans are conditioned in a certain way, and when it doesn't really meet their expectations, they kind of like go left with it. And I think they're
extremely left.
And I think they really especially with an alternative now who seems to be kind of like any alternative, to be honest with you, would attract some fans. We've seen that with TNA in the past. We've seen it with, AEW currently, WCW, if you wanted that alternative. But in terms of just like the alternative is using people the opposite way that WWE does, and it always produces kind of a result that's favorable because it's relatively new. But with WWE, I just think, I don't know. I think fans should just watch how this kind of plays out more than showing.
It's hard. It's hard for them to.
You know what? And I get that it's hard because you kind of everything is like kind of like watching a movie, right? And you kind of want the satisfying ending at the end of every movie, but they don't really quite realize that this is part one of this kind of sequencing thing that's continuing to go on, and it's actually a long-term story as opposed to this short-term story that we're kind of doing. I'm going to read Caleb's article as soon as I guess we finish this up. I saw that it was shared quite, that's all that I saw, is that it was shared a lot.
Yeah. A lot of love for you, Caleb. We love you.
And he says, ultimately, my point is that Shayna should have won in dominant fashion. The storyline that made that necessary in building a big match. Same thing with Brock Lesnar versus Ricochet at Super Showdown. Sure, I would have liked to see a little bit back and forth between Brock and Ricochet, but I get why they ultimately had Brock steamroll him. They're building towards a main event with Drew McIntyre for the WWE Championship and making both wrestlers seem like a viable option to creates interest in the match. Getting mad at management doing their job and making people look like the superstars is absurd and pathetic. In order to build new stars and create all-time greats, you have to book these acts accordingly or no one benefits. At the end of the day, Daniel Bryan put it best. A lot of these fans are fickle. And I just, I randomly just picked a paragraph out of it. So this seems really, really good.
Yeah, it's a great post. And he's absolutely correct. I mean, you see this literally all the time where it's like when it's not someone that you want to win,
right?
And it's even something as it's futile as arguing the Ricochet thing days later. We knew this was going to happen, and it's also the same thing with remember when people were getting mad that Matt Riddle wasn't going against Brock this year or going against Goldberg. Right. It's like that's not the story that they're telling, and whether you like it or not, in a way. That doesn't matter to them. At the end of the day, that's not the story that they're telling. The Matt Riddle thing will come. The Liv Morgan thing will come, or Nat. What do people even want out of the Elimination Chamber match? Who do they want?
It's weird because if you start booking from the fans' perspective, there's so many different swaying opinions. It's like, where do you actually go?
Right.
To be honest with you, the best quality stuff, and that comes with anything with artistic, art, music, sports, anything is not necessarily giving you exactly what you asked for, but it's giving you what you need and what you ultimately what you want, which is what they're going to get at the end. But it's ultimately giving you what you need and you kind of interpreting that for your kind of self. As opposed to saying like, oh, we're just going to do, it's super predictable if they decide to give Ricochet and Brock Lesnar 25 minutes, they go back and forth, but that doesn't do any favors for Brock Lesnar, who has a WWE Championship match legitimately a month after.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's about giving you what you need. I say that with music all the time. Like some people color in between the lines and some people color outside the lines and really redefine kind of what you see wrestling is. And that's kind of what or music or anything rather. And that's kind of what I see happening in WWE right now. I mean, we have all these WrestleMania main events. I never thought I'd actually see Charlotte versus Rhea, Drew versus Brock, Cena versus Fiend, all these other things I've never expected I see, but I'm interested. I'm interested because this is something, it isn't by the books. It's something new. It's something fresh. And I think that's what WWE is going for in this WrestleMania.
Let's get to Elimination Chamber, our recap for that show. I thought it was a good show. I thought it was a really good show.
Mid-Card Mania over here.
Oh my God. They were not, it was not all mid-carders.
It was all mid-card. Let me tell you how much mid-card there was. There was none of the aforementioned matches that were announced for WrestleMania where any of those acts are featured on this card. But you gotta keep it fresh,
baby.
That I'm saying, because this is the second pay-per-view in about like what 2 weeks.
Yeah.
If you count in AEW, third in 3 weeks. If we're counting NXT, is probably third in 4 weeks, or so fourth and fourth weeks, or something along those lines. But it was a good show, man. Like I really enjoyed kind of the different things that were giving to us. A lot of the stars got a lot of shine. We got a couple, big matches. To me, I mean, what was your favorite match of the night? Or favorite
My
moment,
match,
rather?
my match of the night would probably be the tag chamber. I thought that was
I don't think anyone saw that coming either.
no, not at all. I don't even think did we even like predict that at all? Like I think that
I
we were
mean,
just kind
yes,
of
of
like
course, I always pick Miz, but
no, I mean like predict that it was going to be this good. I thought the addition of Lucha House Party was a great addition to that match, and I think it without them it wouldn't have been the match that it was. And I'm glad that they got to stay in for so long. I think at one point I was like, "There's too many people in this match," and then I was like, "Oh, I see why. I see why there's all those people."
I think, we took them for sort of granted. I mean, how many times have we seen New Day versus the Usos? How many times in the last month have we seen the New Day versus Miz and Morrison, or the Usos versus Miz and Morrison? But I think in this sort of realm, we took all of them for granted because it was like, okay, it's a hodgepodge. Just throw all the SmackDown teams together. We've seen this before. In fact, we saw it 2 days before.
Yeah, and a gauntlet match.
Yeah, so I think we all took it for granted. But I mean, a Lucha House Party really showed out, and I think it's going to open an opportunity for them on SmackDown. And then even as fans looking and seeing Lucha, it's like, damn, Lindsay, what's his name? Lindsay Dorado.
Lindsay Dorado, yeah. Well, aren't you Grand Metalik? Yeah, you're Grand Metalik Hive, huh?
Oh yeah, big Metalik Hive. I always knew he had this in him from the Cruiserweight Classic. So I'm very big on that. But you get these opportunities to show off these stars, and I'm not mad at it if the Elimination Chamber every year is kind of like this type of event where the big guys sit out because naturally you don't want anyone getting injured before Mania, and you have these guys who may need to set up their place, set up their kind of standing before WrestleMania, do all the work.
I really enjoyed Drew Gulak and Daniel Bryan. Also, I thought that was just
nice flavor of match.
Yeah, and I was very afraid, and as you should be for Daniel Bryan. He was getting rocked in this match, and I was just like, I did not expect Drew Gulak to get that much offense in that match at all, and he ended up like really carrying about 80% of the match. I thought it was really spectacular.
I agree. I mean, Drew Gulak, Daniel Bryan, I didn't know what to. I mean, that's the one where I knew what to expect. But even still, like them kind of telling the story of this, like Drew Gulak kind of knowing Daniel Bryan's weaknesses and brutalizing him, and Daniel Bryan kind of having to honestly pull a John Cena in a sense, to kind of like come from behind win. There's like, I wouldn't say like a 5 moves of doom, but he really decided, oh, it's time to put this guy away. He's really like,
he had to outsmart him,
giving it to me. Yeah, so he manages to lock in the yes block and manages to put him out of commission. But you get the stance now. You see Drew Gulak, and it was like, okay, his standing's a little bit different. Maybe he's got something.
Yeah.
Another major surprise to me, Sami Zayn.
Oh yeah, hell yeah! I think that shaped the entire pay-per-view when he won the IC title.
and I think in terms of telling a story, it's a great part of the story. And this is probably what fans wanted anyway, so it didn't really even matter. But I think it's
we're also we talked about conditioning earlier, and we said that fans are conditioned to a certain thing. Are we not conditioned to believe that in these types of handicap matches that the person that is at a disadvantage always wins, right?
Oh yeah, Big Braun, yeah, come from under.
And he ended up losing to that really spectacular suplex haluva kick deal, which they should put that in the next 2K game. It's a fire ass finisher.
It legitimizes their group and everything that they've been going for. And yes, Nakamura had the IC title before, but they've never really put it down on Strowman before. And Strowman was the one who asked for this match. So this is all Strowman's cross to bear. This is all his sort of wrongdoing, but eventually he's going to catch Sami Zayn, and that's kind of what we're looking for in this entire counter. So props to Sami Zayn winning his first championship on the main roster since debuting 4 years
4
ago?
years ago.
5 years
Yeah, 4 years ago.
Yeah, so shout out to him.
There's a lot of legs with this too, like and not just giving it back to Braun, just having these guys, and I think I even optioned it or even said it, like if they had the title on like a free bird rule where they all trade the title around, like that's a really cool concept as well. Like there's a lot of ways you can go here. You protect Nakamura also.
Yeah, I think it's within the realm of that group as well, considering they don't fight fair. They fight the scummiest kind of way that they do. So for them to shift it out and be like, oh, Sammy's defending it tonight. You're not gonna get Sammy tonight. You're gonna get Cesaro, and work against that. So I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, what'd you feel about Aleister Black and AJ Styles? There was a big conversation that people are ready to have. I think you kind of agree with me here. I think the conversation is, and to be clear, like I didn't want people to turn on Al. I saw a small contingent of people turning on Aleister for this match. And when you think about it, AJ controls a large part of any match that he has.
Yeah.
Whereas, Aleister was again, and I think it's so crazy. Like the people were ever scared that AJ would ever like get to the status where he was literally the smallest guy in the ring, pounding on another guy and got to control the match half the time. But that's exactly what he did in this match. And it was very.
I mean, he's the pro. He's a veteran. Like.
And he was methodical in it. It was a long match. It went around 23 minutes. And, if you're trying to compare this to Aleister Black and and Adam Cole's match in Philadelphia, this was not it. Like this was very different than that match. But it had a lot of bells and whistles. And I think that people are just now somehow starting to realize that AJ Styles might not be the same guy that he was when he first got here.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. AJ Styles is still good, but it's clear that it's like, from the series of matches that we watched over the last number of years, and I can remember us harkening back to WrestleMania a couple years back and being disappointed in that AJ Styles Nakamura face-off, and then being again disappointed with AJ Styles versus KO, and then again being disappointed with AJ Styles versus Samoa Joe, and and it may be just kind of his style changing because of his age, and
he's not doing springboard 450s anymore.
He's not doing that type of stuff. I think the pace is definitely slowed down in order to continue to preserve his own thing, so he could keep wrestling for. I mean, this in the year 2 of this contract that he's currently still in. So it is.
No, it's still the first. I think it's still the first year. Year.
Well, yeah. God bless. But I think. I mean, this all built up to the moment. And when Undertaker showed up, I can't remember a crowd jolting. Like, they jolted like it was Stone Cold in 1999. Like, the gong. And I was watching
definitely woke them up.
It was weird because I was watching this all after the fact on Watch Along. And it's weird watching Watch Along when you're not actually watching along the show. So I would actually skip to certain parts that I knew was happening, and I skipped to the Elimination Chamber part, and people went up for the group in there, went up for the big the Shooting Star Press, and Undertaker as well. I mean, Zelina was there watching her man do her own thing. Her eyes widened up just as everybody else's did, and she had a huge, big ass smile when Undertaker came out, and she knew that her man was about to win.
Even then, I thought, and I gotta give Paul or whoever booked this match, produced it, whatever, a lot of credit. I thought there were a lot of ways you could have went with Undertaker's appearance here. You could have did it after the match. You could have just not even finished the match. I still at one point thought AJ was gonna win because like for the past year and some change, AJ has been literally beating the hell out of the new guys and then them never getting their wins back. So like the fact that Aleister did win this was still a big moment for me. Like I was like, I didn't believe that they were gonna let Aleister win. I was bullish on it up until the moment that it happened. But what really everyone wants to talk about essentially is the women's elimination chamber. I know we brought it up. We kind of danced around it a couple of seconds ago when we talked about Caleb's article. But Shayna Baszler, this has to be like the shortest elimination chamber ever, and they tried to make it even longer by having her like literally like she would tap someone out and then stand in the ring for 5 minutes. But like if you condense all the match time, this was probably the shortest elimination chamber of all time, right?
No, but thankfully, because I don't like elimination chamber matches. So the quicker they could get over with, the better to me, because I didn't really like it.
People were like more like surprised in a lot of ways, or more like shocked that they even went through this. So like just to set up and describe the match, essentially Shayna's in her chamber, Sarah Logan, Ruby Riott going at it. Even before we even get to Liv Morgan, I'm sorry, Natty, Sarah Logan, and Ruby Riott going at it, and then essentially Shayna comes out. Shayna's out of her pod. She chokes out. I think Natty goes first. Then she chokes out Ruby. Then she chokes out Sarah Logan. She's in the ring by herself. And then essentially Liv Morgan comes out. She beats on Liv for a second. Then Asuka comes out, and of course they protect Asuka a little bit by giving her the wrist injury that they had on last Monday's Raw. And I think that this was a very clever way to protect her. I always felt something was up with that wrist injury. It came out of literally nowhere, and even on her Kana-chan episodes, like there's no like wrist injury. But she comes out of that, and she gets at least 2 minutes against Shayna, and then Shayna chokes her out. And then Shayna wins. Like that is essentially the crux of that match. And a lot of people were upset, but I think when you put it in perspective, there's a lot riding on the Shayna program, especially for Becky, who has held this title for a whole year. I think that when you think about the stakes of what's going on with the Becky storyline, I know a lot of us wanted Ronda, a lot of us wanted that rematch. It's just not going to happen this year. And with the Shayna thing, after the bite angle, I feel like a lot of people felt as though like this really wasn't connecting. I think this did a lot to save this program in my eyes, where you gave Becky that challenger that, okay, she's a threat in a lot more ways than the biting angle did. I feel like you could have started it with this. You could have just hyped Shayna to this match, had her do that and not done the bite angle at all, because I feel as though this was a lot stronger than that. But essentially you have a really strong challenger here that's like, to me, Brock level in a way that Ronda wasn't. Like Ronda at least had a level of humanity going into WrestleMania with her stardom, her career and everything like that. Like Shayna is literally an outlier. We had no clue that she was capable of doing this, and she's being booked like in a way the same way as her NXT counterpart, but even better, because it shows like she got to the main roster, and these chicks are they're nothing to her. They're no match for her.
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it was super. I don't know.
It was some anime shit. She was All Might in there.
Yeah. Well, okay. All right. But either way, I think, this was something that I predicted. This was something that sort of happened. And I think it was probably the best way to go about it. I mean, Shayna Baszler made history in their own right. I think all women deserve to make kind of history in their own right, and especially the ones from NXT have been for the last number of years, and Shayna's completely no different. And if we have to continue to move forward in terms of the era that we're in with the women's division, shifting from the 4 horsewomen to a new crop of women, I mean, this is kind of the opportunity it is. And this is what it's going to have to be. Yeah,
for sure. Again, this wasn't the best Elimination Chamber match. No one's saying this, but there's nothing wrong with these matches having some semblance of story where we don't have to go through the tried and true, her going 50-50 with everyone, and then, eking out a win just to prove how tough the Elimination Chamber is. No, she defeated the Elimination Chamber. She should go on to win. We knew it was going to happen, and I think that it was a statement victory, and I like the way that they kind of wrapped everything up throughout this story, and I think you have a more interesting main event, or for Becky here, and I think that the story that they're pulling here with Becky being overconfident and Becky still being overconfident about this match is going to be something to look into as we go into WrestleMania in the next 3 weeks. Let's get into do we have an update for Mark Madness before we get into our mini moment?
Yes. So we started Mark Madness last week. We started the first round last week. First round actually ended last week, and
yes,
the second round ended at some point. So we have, because God knows I don't want to drag this. I don't want to drag Mark Madness for way too long. I love sort of the responses and the feedback that we're getting and all these other things. we have gone to the second round. In terms of the results of the second round, I mean, we knew the second round would be a doozy just from kind of the standings of all of it. The first round was a doozy. But the second round, I mean, Becky Lynch, 65% to Bailey's 35%.
Jesus. I'm sorry, Chris.
He did what he could. Asuka beat Charlotte 72% to Charlotte.
Asuka fan.
I mean, big Asuka fan. Alexa Bliss 72% to Nikki Cross. Beats Nikki Cross. Sasha Banks 80%. Naomi 20%.
Jesus Christ.
Rhea Ripley 60%, roughly around 60%. Shayna Baszler around 40%. So Rhea Ripley is going to advance. Bianca Belair overwhelming over Kaylee Ray. I don't think anyone is surprised. Io Shirai overwhelming over Toni Storm, 75-25. And Candice LeRae once again overwhelming over Mia Yim.
What the hell? Is Candice LeRae like the sleeper pick? Should I be voting?
She might have stands. I mean, she might have stands. She might be a sleeper pick. I mean, we have the third round, which is going to start as this podcast is released on 11 a.m. On Wednesday. So that'll start. It'll be Becky Lynch versus Asuka in the quarterfinals. It'll be Alexa Bliss versus Sasha Banks. Oof. In the quarterfinals. Rhea Ripley versus Bianca Belair quarterfinals, and Io Shirai versus Candice LeRae. So,
this is very storyline intense right here.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna name the Queen of the Ring right here. So Mark Madness is gonna continue to go on. I think by the time we hit next week, we'll definitely be at the finals, and we'll determine what goes from there. But keep voting. RNC Radio Live. Follow on Twitter.
Really quick, my Mania moment for this week. Since we're nearing 316 Day, which Stone Cold will be on Raw next week, we of course this will be after. So I want
to be figured out meme culture.
Oh god! Well, all those followers on Instagram can't be wrong. I want to talk about Stone Cold Steve Austin's coronation at WrestleMania 14. Really big moment. I remember ordering this pay-per-view when I was a child, or my parents ordering the pay-per-view when I was a child, and seeing this in person and being allowed to stay up and watch this was a very seminal moment in my childhood, seeing Stone Cold win the title finally over Shawn Michaels. I just picked this moment this week because I did rewatch the match, and I think it is hilarious how Shawn Michaels was giving Austin nothing during this match. But I thought that it was, again, not the greatest match, but as far as just stamping a new generation, this was it. I think that, we don't really get many moments like this. I think the last time we got this was maybe Batista winning, of course. I think of this generation, I would have to say probably Daniel Bryan, right? That would kind of be like a Stone Cold moment.
Daniel Bryan, yeah, definitely. I would say Daniel Bryan.
Maybe Seth Rollins was another one.
Seth Rollins-ish. Ish. Unfortunately.
Roman's never gotten that kind of. Well, no, he did face Triple H. That was a main event.
Triple H.
Yeah,
to me, that was by the time we were all checked out. We were like, okay, all right, let's see what you guys do. You guys really did all of that for this.
Would him beating Goldberg kind of be that moment, or is like Roman kind of Roman's kind of cat a corner or in the middle of a generation here? I feel like he's never, and I might get a lot of flack for this, he's never really run a generation, right? Like Stone Cold has, like John Cena has, like even Daniel Bryan has in a lot of people's minds. Like he hasn't run a whole generation. Do you think?
No, I mean, I think he's the leader of this current generation. If you ask him who's the guy that they kind of lean on and who represents this kind of arc, I think it would be him between Roman and Becky. But I think, just in general, it's hard because this moment was such a kind of critical and pivotal, and it's a culture shift, and I don't think we've had one of those in quite some time. The most recent one would probably once again be the Daniel Bryan moment, but I don't think that we had one that shifted the culture so crazy and like, God damn, that they show in all the packages. By God, the Attitude Era has begun. Like, I don't think we've seen that since the level of Daniel Bryan kind of going over and kind of ushering the change of like where WWE was before and kind of like where it's at now.
Yeah.
So, I think the Stone Cold Mania 14, I didn't get to experience it live. I've honestly, legitimately, since I started wrestling shortly after that pay-per-view, and I've only kind of
How old were you?
I was
5?
No. WrestleMania 14, 16, 2000, 17, 1998. I legitimately started after that. Like, I started in 1998 watching, but it was after WrestleMania.
Okay.
So, but I've only really kind of lived through that moment in backstage packages and, all the stuff that WWE does to Hawk the Austin era and stuff like that.
The Tyson thing was a big thing too.
Yeah, 100%. Like Mike Tyson, that was huge. I mean, they if you ask the ruthless aggression thing, what was the Monday Night Wars thing? That was the moment that changed the Attitude Era forever, and blah, blah, blah.
Which is cap. Which is cap.
Yeah, but it is what it is. Did you get to watch Ruthless Aggression this week, by the way?
I have not caught it. I'm going to catch it after we watch, or not after we watch. It's good.
Yeah, it's nice.
This is the last episode before season 2, right?
No, well, I guess so, yeah, because they had a long package of what's to come all after the fact, blah, 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 blah. So maybe it's that I wasn't actually paying attention. But this episode was about the battle of the brands between SmackDown and Raw and all this fake brand supremacy that they were kind of, hawking that, SmackDown's live attendance and SmackDown beat Raw in the ratings and all this other stuff like that. All the stuff. It's nice. It's nice seeing them, give attention to those like Eddie Guerrero and Edge and JBL and all these other things like that. So it was nice.
All right, I'll check it out after this. Really quick, let's go through Raw.
Shout out JBL, also in the Hall of Fame. Oh, by the way.
Oh crap, I forgot about that. Also, JBL had a pretty cool moment on backstage last week. I really enjoyed it. Him and Mark Henry. I think I've enjoyed the
John
past.
Cena saying those words to him and stuff.
Oh man, I almost cried.
I know he did too.
I think the last 3 weeks of backstage has been really some of the best stuff that they've done. I thought the Black History Month thing that Booker and Mark Henry did, and even the Keith Lee thing they did, I think the week before that, or he was on the show, I thought very, very strong. And I know a lot of people don't watch the show or whatever. Catch it on their channel, catch those interviews, catch those segments. I thought that Booker and Mark talking about being Black wrestlers was a moment that you just seldom really ever get in these types of shows and in this company, really. So definitely take a time and check that out if you can. Raw, really good show, I thought. Other than the main event, which we've seen 100,000 times at this point.
I didn't even watch it, to be honest.
Yeah, I skipped right to the end. Edge does return on the show. Not a big promo here, and not even a confirmation of their match at WrestleMania. We know it's going to happen. Is it going to be no DQ? It seems to be trending towards that way, that it's going to be some type of no DQ, no false count anywhere match.
People were mad they announced Edge before the show.
They need ratings. Well, why would they not?
Yeah. Mad.
That's so weird. I think I caught I think I caught Meltzer or Brian Alvarez saying that they wish that there were surprises, and I was like, we just don't live in that era anymore. People are you have to give them a reason to watch.
And you also get surprises from time to time, but then you know what? You also got to pay bills from time to time. So guess what? Edge is showing up, and you're figuring it out on Saturday.
He sent MVP to God. I think that it is kind of funny that MVP does come out to get sent to God by all the new guys, and he's retaining his same character that he did back in the day, where he would talk a lot of shit and then get beat up subsequently. I do think there needs to be a direction. I think he'd be a tremendous manager to someone like Ricochet or even Cedric Alexander or someone like that. I think that if you want to keep these guys on the show and they can't cut promos, they need a manager, and I don't know why WWE is so adverse to giving some of these guys that needed a manager. But I think that it would go a long way. Even Umberto, I think, needs a manager. There is a lot of things, where he doesn't shine. Where I think Angel Garza would be fine without Zelina, to be honest with you, because he just exudes charisma. And some of these guys,
they've been brought in. To me, the fact that Angel Garza has been brought in with Zelina does a lot for his stock.
Yeah, for sure, because it's championship pedigree there. That is someone who immediately puts him to that next level. And I thought he had a great match with Rey Mysterio. I don't know. A lot of people are rumoring that just because he lost, he might be going to NXT. I don't think there's a place for him on NXT right now.
No, NXT's filled up.
NXT
got
they good
people. They good.
Yeah, they good. He don't need to go back. I don't know what he would do unless he is essentially going to go for the title, which I don't think is going to happen. but yeah, I thought the Edge segment was very, very good. He gave our Randy a RKO. I thought was really, really funny because the way he did it. That was not an RKO. That was Cutter. That was Cutter 2 on 2K.
Easily.
We got an Aleister Black and Seth Rollins altercation. I think that we both even said this, like, there's not too long that he can circle the drain without actually going after the main event guys. And we did get a glimpse of that, if only for about 5 or 6 minutes on Raw here. But that did lead to the main event. Of course, Aleister didn't lose. That I gotta say, the dedication they have to protecting this guy, I have to commend them. They are showing a lot of restraint, whereas with a lot of other people, they would have given up already.
Yeah, I think he's definitely a long-term plan going into, the next era, the post-Mania sort of aspect of Raw. And Paul Heyman is very dedicated into building kind of the new crop of stars, and he's definitely one of them. I'm interested in what they do for Mania. It kind of looks like they might go with like maybe a 6-man tag or something.
Or even I don't. If they're going to go that route, I'd pit Aleister with the Street Profits or something, because I feel like KO and Seth is definitely the direction as far as the singles match for Raw.
I was thinking Aleister and War Raiders. Buddy and AOP. That's what I was kind of thinking.
That would work.
And then do tag team championships with somebody else or something along those lines.
That would work. Yeah, you're right. You're right. I think that it was a good segment. I thought that Aleister, again, not having to do the same promo, but actually having Seth interrupt was actually pretty fun too. And then having the storyline convergence where Buddy told Seth, Aleister is really good. You should try it. I just thought it, again, really good writing. I think that, again, like you said, Aleister is being figured into the big, larger scheme of things as kind of the most wanted guy after Mania. And I think that this is going to be really interesting going forward. AJ Styles puts down the gauntlet for the Undertaker match at Mania. It is going to happen.
Him up.
Disrespected this man. He said, "Hey, if y'all don't know, this man's name is Mark Calloway."
And he married to Michelle McCool. You remember her?
Why you say her name so much?
He must hate her.
I
don't know what Heyman told him to say, but in terms of that whole, half the promo was about Michelle McCool.
Yeah, he was like, "Yo, you do whatever she say." I was like, he sounded like Future on that Beats One interview when he was talking about Sierra and Russell Wilson, and he was like, he do whatever she say, and I was like, wow, AJ is on his Future tip right now. I got it.
Nah, that was fire. He's on his Future tip.
He is. He disrespecting the women. So and again, like, one thing I want to say is that, like, again, AJ's loss didn't hurt him at all. I think that it's not harmful to him to lose, which is interesting why, like, they have him beat so many people, because AJ can still lose and keep his momentum because he can still be hated or he can still be loved. But it was a really good promo from him. I think that, a lot of people do have problems, and I get it, where, Undertaker has outsmarted him twice and even beaten him once. Why do we want the match? And I think that the way that they're doing this is to make it personal. And I think it's a good way to go. I think the last time that Taker had a personal match like this is when CM Punk was going at Paul Bearer back in WrestleMania 27. So, again, 29. It was 29. Sorry, you're right, 29. But again, like, I thought it was really good. We're going to have a contract signing between The Undertaker and AJ Styles. Hopefully no one gets stabbed with a pin again. So
that is Undertaker's, what is it, modus operandi?
Yeah, modus operandi, stabbing you with a pin.
There you go. That's just it.
And lastly, on Raw, I think that another big thing, I don't know if there's anything you want to talk about, but Becky's promo on Shayna was actually very, very good. You set up Becky, establishing that Shayna is a threat, and also establishing the fact that she is still the one that runs the division. I think, again, they're leaning into the overconfidence angle. I would not mind, and I'm just putting this pie in the sky here, I wouldn't mind Shayna beating Becky in under 5 minutes. I think that's how you humble her.
Yeah, I think so as well. I mean, she's gonna come out and do her little I didn't see it coming, but guess what? Now I'm mad. She's obviously gonna do that, but I think it would. I think in that sort of thing, and we've wanted these sort of situations from WrestleMania and kind of just do it in the correct allotted time, and sometimes they go long, sometimes they don't, and we'll see what happens. But definitely the humbling, it seems like it's coming for Becky, because she seems to be talking a lot louder than she stopped everyone in the division, and maybe her head is getting too big, and maybe she needs to get back to kind of where she was at before everything went right for her.
Yeah. And again, I mean, I don't think Becky Shayna is over after Mania. I think they at least go into Extreme Rules with this, and there's probably going to be some type of gimmick match going into it as well. So yeah, I again, they've got me more narratively hooked than I was a week ago on this program, and I want to see it happen. So we'll see how they continue to build this. And that was Raw. Of course, SmackDown was a go home show. We don't review the go home shows of SmackDown, but I think the biggest thing here was that Otis is a star, and that this week on SmackDown we get Paige returning and Jeff Hardy. So that would be something really interesting to talk about as well.
That'd be fire. Yeah.
Anything else you want to bring up?
Drew McIntyre killed a spider. That was fun.
You might as well just fire Eric Rowan. You killed this whole gimmick.
I thought it was gonna have goo all over the place, but yes, it seems like closer to that actually happening.
I would have enjoyed the goo too, but I would have made it way too cartoonish. I think I would have hated it.
Splat.
Oh my god!
I feel you.
I would have hated that. I think it would have been too cartoonish, especially when you're establishing Drew as kind of like not as silly as Eric Rowan's been. But what a past 4 weeks for him, where he gets beaten twice by Aleister Black. One time he's injured, and then he's getting jobbed out to Drew McIntyre. So I'm like, okay, I get what Heyman was doing. He's moving to the next phase. It's a Mania season. We don't need the storyline clogging up all your time, and I appreciate that. And so. True. Until next week, we will be talking about, of course, more of the build to the road to WrestleMania. We'll have another Mania moment, and we'll be talking about the finals of Mark Madness on next week's show. So until then, follow us at RNC Radio Live. Make sure you subscribe to our new channel at the A Show RNC. We're on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Please subscribe to us, leave us a rating, and leave us some comments, man. Let us know what you want to hear and what you want to talk about, or you want us to talk about, as always. So shout out to everybody listening, and until next week, it has been the A Show. I am Justin. That is Meals. And until next week, we'll talk to you next time.
Happy Rusev Day, and wash your hands.
Please wash them. Wash those hands.